A factor to take into consideration is time. Not my time, but time on the battlefield. The first encounter took place at first light this morning. It's June, so that would be around somewhere between 4 to 5 a.m. Since that time, the rebels have moved steadily north. By now, I estimate the time to be late afternoon, with dusk falling around 9 to 10 p.m. So plenty of time for the Confederates to defeat the Union forces and take the town, or conversely, for the Union to be victorious and push the rebels back. I've had to clear the table and rearrange the terrain for the fighting withdrawal and pursuit currently underway. I've attempted to create a table using the top of table 3 and the bottom of table 4. The next few photographs show what I have come up with. It incorporates most of the features shown on the two map halves. The Union infantry are falling back to the river, hotly pursued by the rebel infantry. The dismounted Confederate cavalry troopers have now reached the edge of the elevated wood and must decide what to do next: carry on along the ridge with no cover, or go back to their horses and mount up. The Confederate artillery was out of range, so had to limber up and move. We can also see General M's 2 regiments of Union infantry moving back and falling back towards the river. Defending the bridge are the 153rd Pennsylvania and K Battery, 1st Ohio. The outskirts of the town can be seen across the Hog River. A couple of views. The first from the advancing Confederate infantry, and the second one up on the ridge as the Confederate artillery batteries move forward. With the 2 new units added to the Union strength, the coming battle should be far more balanced. And also a view looking from the town across the bridge. The full table and all the troops currently on it are now in view. The Hog River bridge and the outskirts of the town are now visible on the table. The 41st and 54th New York are still carrying out their fighting withdrawal. So far they have managed to stay outside of musket range. They now have friends at their back: 153rd Pennsylvania and K Battery, 1st Ohio. The Confederates have had to limber up their artillery to advance back into range. They are moving along the western escarpment. The 1st Maryland and 2nd Virginia Cavalry are dismounted and in the trees atop the eastern escarpment. In pursuit of the withdrawing Union infantry is the 13th Alabama and the 7th Tennessee. On this turn, the initiative goes to the Union. Brigadier General Ames was pleased to see the other units of his brigade formed up and ready for action on the south side of the bridge. The 2 forces were now much more balanced, but of course the rebels had the advantage of being on high ground on both flanks. It would be dark in 2 hours. He would like to stay on the south side of the bridge and ford if possible, but he knew that would be difficult. If his brigade was suffering, he would have to pull them back across the river as night fell. The 41st New York withdrew through the ranks of the 54th New York as the 153rd Pennsylvania moved up to form a line. Brigadier General Archer knew he held all the aces. Even with the fresh Union troops that had been spotted, he held the high ground on both flanks and so could pour a murderous fire into the enemy. He ordered his 2 cavalry regiments to remain dismounted and act as infantry sharpshooters, pushing forward along the ridge that dominated both the river and the town. The artillery was to unlimber and his infantry would continue to advance. Rebel initiative on this turn. And for your information, I used blue arrows to show movements of units and red arrows to show directions of fire. The dismounted 1st Maryland Cavalry are in position and open fire on the flank of the 54th New York. The Confederate infantry continue their steady advance. Now in position and unlimbered, Huger's Virginia Artillery Battery open up on the 153rd Pennsylvania. Devastating and sustained carbine fire rains down on the luckless 54th. 3 hits and a retreat. Now with a yellow disc denoting 4 hits, the 54th fall back. The artillery is just as effective on the other flank, scoring 2 hits on the 153rd Pennsylvania. The 153rd Pennsylvania and 41st New York pull back as K Battery belches fire at the advancing rebel infantry and score 2 hits on the 13th Alabama. A few shots of the table at the end of the turn. With darkness now tantalisingly close, Brigadier General Ames knows he cannot hold this exposed position until the coming of nightfall. The fire from the enemy flanks would annihilate his brigade. The 54th are in a bad way, as well as a bad position. He must pull them back across the bridge first, followed by the artillery. He had to hope the other 2 infantry battalions could carry out an ordered withdrawal across the bridge afterwards. Even then, he knew, with the enemy on elevated flanks overlooking the town, he would be forced to continue with the withdrawal beyond the town, and in doing so would leave both in the hands of the enemy. He hoped reinforcements were on the way down the valley. As we know, it is getting late in the day, so each side will activate twice more. After that, it will be simply too dark to conduct any kind of formation action. Skirmishing between small groups will probably continue for some time after, but that will not be played out on the tabletop. It's a Union activation this turn. 54th New York make their way across the bridge. K Battery is now feeling decidedly vulnerable, but fire a salvo at the 7th Tennessee. They score a single hit. General Archer wants to prevent any further Union troops from being able to escape across the bridge, so continue to move forward. Even the cavalry troopers begin their descent of the slope. The roar of cannon fire echoes in the dusk. 1 hit and a fallback flag. The 41st New York felt the brunt of the artillery fire, losing men and being forced back to the river. Twilight and the final activation. Once again, the Union have the initiative. The 54th New York move off through the town of Parksville, and they seem to have left their disc behind. General Ames orders his artillery to limber up and retreat across the bridge. The 153rd Pennsylvania move off in column, heading for the road. Both regiments of Confederate cavalry pour a murderous fire into the defenceless artillerymen. The 13th Alabama holds its ground so as not to block line of sight for the artillery as the 7th Tennessee advance. Huger's battery fires on the 153rd Pennsylvania. A total of 3 artillery symbols rolled by the Confederate cavalry is enough to totally destroy the enemy guns. The gunners flee, leaving the artillery pieces behind. More carnage in the ranks of the 153rd Pennsylvania as the artillery strikes home. Night and its cloak of darkness may just have saved some of these Union soldiers. We can see the final positions, but of course the officers and men are not so privileged. A number of running fights continue as the Union soldiers struggle to cross the river and escape north through the town and beyond. Next up will be full table number 4. My version of it, the town of Parksville beside the river, the ford through which a number of Yankee soldiers escaped in the darkness, is now visible. A good view through the town looking north. In this peaceful scene, it's hard to imagine the death, carnage and horror and screams of dead and dying that had just occurred here. Brigadier General Ames' organised withdrawal across the river had soon dissolved into an all-out rout. The officers could not prevent the men fleeing. It was impossible to rally the now fragmented units as the men raced north in the dark. They just wanted to be as far away from the enemy, whom they were convinced were galloping after them and would appear out of the dark to cut them down. Some walking wounded, stragglers and deserters were returned to the rebel ranks as they hauled the field of battle. Each damaged unit will remove one casualty. The Union troops who fled in terror will receive no such returnees, as they are deemed captured and are now prisoners. However, 54th New York, who had crossed the bridge and moved off the northern edge of the table in good order, will receive back one pip of elan, moving from a yellow to a green disc. Dawn, June the 5th, 1863. After the rout of the Union force, the tired but victorious rebel soldiers were even more heartened by the arrival of the rest of the brigade, the 5th Alabama and the 1st Tennessee. With them came the brigade's supply wagons. Tented camps were set up north and south of the Hog River. The artillery had moved to a position from where it commanded the town. Pickets were also posted near the bridge and in the north end of the town. A troop of 2nd Virginia Cavalry had been sent to watch the southern approach. There will not be any fighting on this table, but I laid it out for continuity of the series. The next table, we have travelled almost halfway along the valley. We can see the valley sides, an escarpment on the east side, a wood and the small hamlet of Anderson.